and I'm together with Susan Brodersen and Jens Stålen sitting here, the local organizer of this 6th Living Knowledge Conference that we will start now. So we will, as Robert said, we will be the pilots and you will be the co-pilots and passengers during the coming 3 days. We are coming from the Center for Design, Innovation and Sustainable Transition, based here at Aalborg University's campus in Copenhagen. So, yeah, welcome to this 6th Living Knowledge Conference and welcome to Copenhagen. And I think we can all say, finally, you are almost all here. I mean, it's been like preparing a very big party for, I think, a year or something like that, getting more and more intense. Some of you have been to all these Living Knowledge Conferences, and some of you are just here for the first time. I'm sure a little later in the morning we'll hear from Hank Mulder and Norman Steinhaus about maybe some of the background for this Living Knowledge Network and why we're organizing these conferences. But I can tell that it started all in Belgium in 2001, and then we have been to Seville, Paris, Belfast, Bonn, and now Copenhagen, and there's already also plans for the next one that will be announced at the end of the conference. So the title of the conference, so say the theme of the conference, innovative civil society impact through co-creation and participation. A very long title, but let's just explain a little bit why have we called the conference or the theme of the conference like this. I mean, on the one hand, everybody is talking about innovation these years. Everything has to be innovative. Some people also say, well, civil society has an important role in society. And some say, well, civil society can in fact be very innovative, and many ideas actually come from civil society, being citizens, community groups, NGOs, and so on. So that's why we have the headline, an innovative civil society. But we also have an interest in, well, how is it then possible for civil society to get an influence on the development of society? And there we are focusing, on the one hand, on the buzzword co-creation. I mean, many people are talking about co-creation these years. So we are thinking here about, well, that very often things go hand in hand, civil society acting together with maybe researchers, or local community acting together with researchers or with the local government. And the question about participation is also a question about, well, what are then the possibilities for civil society to have a meaningful and relevant and open participation in those processes where decisions are made. So this is what we have decided to put as the overall focus for the conference. You have probably also seen when you submitted your abstract or when you decided to come for the conference that we have a number of different themes that, so to say, all together cover this field of an innovative civil society, co-creation and participation. So there will be quite a number of presentations and sessions with focus on social innovation and what role that has in relation to empowering civil society. We have focus on involving different type of user groups within the so-called assistive technologies, a very important area these years. We have a focus on the North-South dimension of cooperation and development. And then number 4, we of course have a focus on sustainable development, not only talking about the vision that we all want the world to be better in 30 or 40 years, but also how are we able to move or not move ahead. That's why we talk about transition. Then we have a number of themes that are, so to say, moving us inside the university and talking about, well, how do students actually, how can they learn from working together with civil society? What competences can they develop from this so-called problem-based learning and in cooperation with civil society? Theme number 6, developing the university civil society interaction. It's also a very popular one on the conference. We have several sessions on that, and we have also had to be a little innovative there to develop some so-called interactive poster sessions where we try to combine an oral presentation with posters, because there were so many abstracts within this very important area of how to develop the university civil society interaction. Then moving closer to the daily work of community-based research units and science shops, we have a theme there, number 7, about, well, how do we organize these units that try to work either from inside university or outside university together with civil society based on doing research together. And finally, we have theme number 8 about governance of science and technology and the role of civil society in this respect. So what we'll be experiencing here at the conference, I can see from the many abstracts, is on the one hand the bigger picture. What are the challenges to civil society and to influence for civil society? What are the challenges from the overall structures of science and technology? But we will also, in many presentations, so to say, celebrate the many small local experiments and experiences from science shops and different types of projects. So I think it's a nice way of, on the one hand, recognizing that it's quite difficult to move the world, but on the other hand, we are moving the world as we are doing our small experiments and experiences, and some people also talk about how they've been able to do this and how they've been able to embed some of these experiments and experiences. And as I said, we have also had to be a little innovative in the type of sessions. You have also proposed different innovative formats. So, as I mentioned, we will have some sessions that are interactive in the sense that we combine posters and oral presentations. We have a number of traditional sessions with oral presentations and discussions. We have some poster sessions, and we have the so-called tool-based session already this afternoon, where you can hear about different tools that you might apply in working together with civil society. So before I give the word to Sösa, who will talk a little bit about some practical issues, let me just here outline that the morning, a little delayed, up to a coffee break. After Sösa and I have been speaking, then a professor from our center, Christian Clausen, will give you a welcoming address and talk more about the research that we are conducting within the Center for Design Innovation and Sustainable Transition. And there will be a short welcome from Norbert Steinhaus and from Henk Mulder to welcome you from the Living Knowledge Network and from the Paratus Project. And I'll see if we can also give you the opportunity to talk directly with your neighbors, because as we talked about, that maybe some of you are new, some of you are here for the first time, some have been here many times, so we want everybody to know somebody, but maybe you will only have to mingle during the call. We will see what we can do, because definitely we need to go on around 10:30 with our first plenary that will set the scene also about citizen science and democracy. Talk more about that later on, and then after lunch we will have another plenary also setting the scenes, discussing the very important theme of funding. How do we become able to fund research that either cooperate with or are conducted for civil society? And then towards the end of the afternoon we will have one row of parallel sessions, and towards the end of the day we will all, or maybe one, we'll all go to the City Hall in the center of Copenhagen and have a short welcome there from the city of Copenhagen. But once more, very welcome to Copenhagen, and we'll do the best to fly you through those 3 days, and I'm sure that you will both be co-pilots and passengers, and we hope really that you will enjoy. So welcome.
Hey, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, I'm Susa, for those of you I haven't met before, and I want to give you some practical information, just to update you. With the registration desk, I guess you all already seen it. For those of you who didn't register just for the plenary, go there in the coffee break and we will sort it out. And if you need any help, look for the girls and boys in the turquoise t-shirts. They can help you. Or me and Jens. Jens is sitting down here, and he's the one you can see on the picture here. So don't hesitate to ask us. We will have the reception open or registration desk open during the whole conference from around 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. A little bit about venue. These 3 rooms will be turned into 3 different rooms. So these are the rooms called Scanium, Titanium, and Medium. Then we have oxygen on the first floor. And I also mentioned here that iron was on the first floor, but that's wrong. It's down here. You just have to pass the conference desk. But we will be there and guide you. There will be coffee breaks. For the sessions upstairs, there will also be coffee, so you don't have to go down here. You can take coffee from the machines or from the cans they will deliver. And in the afternoon, we will get a lot of cakes as well. Nothing in the morning, but in the afternoon, I guess we will be needing it. Then lunch is in the restaurant. There will be 2 or 3 buffets, but I think you need to consider there will be some queuing, so patient, please. And then I would like you to wear your name tags all the time, just for us to keep track of the people. When you get to your session, if you have a presentation, then please be there 15 minutes before, so we can have your slides on the facilitator's computer, and just to be sure that you're here. And for the facilitator, please bring your computers, as I already wrote to you. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say here. Then we have something about today. We're going into the city center, and we're going to take the S train. So hopefully all of you bought this voucher that I wrote out for you about, because otherwise it's going to be quite chaotic when we go to the train station. We will have our students assistant helping us, so we will be going in groups of around 50. And the first group will be leaving here 10 past 5. So if you want to go early, then be there 10 past 5. You can of course go by yourself if you want, that's up to you. But we will guide you if you need that. And there's no registration for the City Hall. Then tomorrow we have the conference dinner. And maybe you have noticed that some have a small Turkish corner on the name badge, but that's because you have signed up for the conference dinner. So you only need to wear that sign when you come to the dinner. Included in the dinner there will be 1 drink, and if you want more, we will have some bars in there as well. Then we have 3 excursions, and I guess some of you already signed up. If you haven't and you want to go to the registration desk and sign up. We can have around 30 on each trip. And there's still room. I saw that. Yeah. Then if you have any question about Copenhagen, you can try and ask me or somebody of the others, but otherwise go for the conference service. They are the experts there. Outside in the lounge area, we'll have some exhibitions. Some is already there, but there will be more during the day. So please just go and look at the brochures and banners out there. And then we have Wi-Fi for everybody. You can do 2 things. Either you can register on the web page with your mail and your name and your phone number, or you can just use the codes that have been put up outside the lounge area. So that's in principle up to you. Yeah. Then we have our webpage. I hope you've all been in there. The program will be updated continuously. Hope you when people cancel or whatever there will be. So the program you have in your bag is not updated. So please, if you want to update it, go to the webpage. Same counts for the abstract book. And we have also uploaded what we call full paper book for the ones of you who submitted full papers. And it has been given an ISBN number, so it's a publication now. Yeah, that was what I had to say. So the last thing I want to say is I hope you will be enjoying. And please ask if there's something you need from us. Thank you. Question?
So now it's a pleasure to welcome my colleague Christian Clausen, who will present the center that is organizing the conference.
Var det galt, hvis vi flytter den over? Så kan du godt få den over. Can I leave it up here? You don't want to use it.
All right. Is there any connection? Can you hear what I'm saying? Basically not. Okay. Does this work better? Yes. Okay. Well, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, dear participants in this Living Knowledge Conference of 2014 in Copenhagen, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you all on behalf of the Center for Design, Innovation and Sustainable Transition at Aalborg University. And I truly hope that you will have a rewarding and interesting conversation here at the conference. I would like to introduce you a bit to our center, the Center for Design, Innovation and Sustainable Transition, the DIST Center. Okay. It's a center for research, education, and collaboration with social partners as well. And what I would like to talk a bit about is to present some of the research programs we have at the center, our areas of engagement, and some cases of co-design and co-development. I would also like to introduce to you a couple of concepts we are working on in order to develop the organization of experimenting with co-design and co-development. The center is very much based on and trying to answer some of the main sustainability challenges that we see today. Of course, climate change presents urgent agendas for engaging in ways to induce radical transitions. And it's important for us to make cases for reduced resource consumption and energy consumption, and also to develop new practices, even in a time of crisis. And this poses a global challenge to economic, social, and environmental action. So the ambitions on that ground for the DIST Center is to develop research, innovation, education to respond to these challenges. And we are so happy that this is a strategic move made possible by the Aalborg University to support such transitions. And not only are we dedicated to research, innovation, and education, but we also are dedicated to develop new modes of intervention that engages a broad array of actors in the society. And on that ground, I hope you will see the connection between the DIST ambitions and the theme of the conference. The research and also our teaching efforts and our collaboration with societal actors is based on bringing together 4 dimensions of research and activities. First of all, the design of products, processes, and organizations with the aim of developing more sustainable solutions. So the design approach, in a broad sense, is important to us. But it's not enough to look at a design approach. We relate the design approach to an innovation approach where we focus on the innovation processes leading to changes in social, organizational, political, technical, and institutional configurations. So the idea is that if you're going to have success with your design, you need to engage also with broader innovation processes. As a third point, and maybe actually the key point, we focus on the sustainability of these changes and also the sustainability of design and innovation processes. That also includes the controversies, the difficult, contradictory journeys, and the power plays involved. We do not see sustainability as an answer. We do see sustainability as a challenge and a number of questions. So what can be seen as sustainable solutions is not given once and for all, but something that has to be developed also in a social dialogue. And we also see all these issues coming together in a process of transition where we focus even broader on a change in social values, institutions, relations, and material structures that the new design and innovation practices invoke. So you could say that transition, that is what we intend to focus on and contribute to. But design and innovation and sustainability concerns are very important means and processes in that endeavor. The profile, the research profile that we're working on, the perspective that brings the researchers and the perspectives together, that is the STS approach, Science and Technology Studies. So the center draws broadly upon insights from science and technology studies, but also including practice theory, social material design, organizational theory, action network theory. Ecological economics is a rising area, for instance, of concern and resource here, but also a number of different theories are introduced here as if they actually contribute to a development of a broad STS approach. And this brings together researchers from the humanities as well as technical and social sciences, and we are actually including engineering sciences in a number of areas, for instance in the design of energy systems, manufacturing systems, waste handling and transportation, and so on. So it is a truly departmental and also cross-disciplinary approach that we are pursuing. On the educational front, we are engaged in several educational programs. Sustainable design is our main activity here, focusing on development of engineering competences on bachelor and master level. And these are particular developing a new engineering profile, including science and technology studies, design approaches, as well as sustainability efforts. And we are also engaged in the development of programs within sustainable cities, also an engineering master program, and also in techno-anthropology, who is more focusing on combination of social sciences and design and the concern with technology. We are also having a program, or trying to launch a program of professional master in sustainable transitions for engineers who have been on the labor market for some years. And of course, we are also involved in PhD courses in sustainable transitions, innovative processes, and so on. Some of the areas of engagement with sustainable transitions is on, and that's quite a lot of our engagement actually, it's with the design through user involvement, design with users, and co-design, in order to enable the improvement of products, processes, systems, and also practices. It's not only a question about developing product, it's also a question about changing society and changing everybody's practices on many different levels. We are concerned with how cityscapes and mobility may be structured, resulting in transport systems and livable spaces. For instance, we have a lot of collaboration with the municipality of Copenhagen. We have projects engaged in development of possibilities for using your bike, for instance, in the transport systems, combining different transport systems, trains, bikes, roofs, cars, and walks, and so on. We are also engaged in how energy systems may include change of consumption patterns, and also developing new institutions and modes of operation. For instance, the question about how to introduce smart energy systems. Is it possible, for instance, to engage users, ordinary users, in their everyday life in the design of smart energy systems, for instance? We are also engaged in how climate adaptation may be used as a platform for innovative processes for urban quality. If you get the opportunity, for instance, have a view of the Danish harbor bath in Copenhagen. That is something that is actually a combination of way of treatment of surplus water and also to change the environment of the harbor in the city. Some of our engagements would include the development of new concepts of coordination. And we share the view that societal transitions are needed and must be a core of new societal visions. And this is needed in order to substitute simplistic focus on growth, mobility, and consumption, even if these simplistic views and simplistic focuses are really prevalent, and we are actually fighting these very strong processes in society to promote growth, mobility, and consumption. So we see that there's a strong need to come up with different ideas. And this also includes that transitions should include not only technology, through technology fixes, for instance, but also social practices, regulatory policies, ideological preferences, and values, as well as the visions for a sustainable society. So this demand for a new coordination, structuring, and staging of meetings and temporary exchanges between a diversity of societal actors. So sustainability measures, they are not stable and cannot be stable. These measures and the visions behind them have been changing radically during often conflict-ridden processes. And we don't believe that we have seen all these conflicts spelled out yet, something we will have to see in the future. So the important question here is how such transitions can be initiated, sustained, and transformed. And in that respect, we try to support actors navigating these transitions by studying how action can be performed, taking into consideration that these actions are often partial and grounded on uncertainty. We have a number of fields of international cooperation, and I hope that a lot of you actually are engaged in collaboration with, and I know you are, with people from the center. The approach of design with people for local systems, services, to challenges in relation to healthcare, disabilities, and reducing alleviation is one of the areas. Another is strategies for urban transport solutions, combining car traffic with collective means of transport, also in a larger scale. And the third is the integration of public, private, and local energy systems into a coordinated smart energy system. Also could be mentioned the engagement with societal stakeholders in developing sustainable mining activities. I think that this refers specifically also to endeavors in Greenland. And we are also engaged in new urban water systems to cope with climate change. So these are something that we are dealing with locally, but also with a greater international outreach. So the design approach here is a design approach that's focused on intervention and also ordering and reordering. So design practices, in our perspective, entails specific forms of intervention. So engaging in design contributes to the ordering of practices and also to the reordering of practices. So we see very much design as something that is carried out in networks and through networks across different object worlds and perspectives, and involving, for instance, also design games or modeling practices in order to develop a conversation on an informed but also inspiring and also a way where established understandings are challenged in a maybe hopefully joyful way. Some of the engagements with co-design we are involved in is very much with, you could say, poor people, local civil society actors who are involved in co-design and in their development. For instance, projects concerned with the improvement of hygiene standard in street food in Calcutta, for instance, where the focus is very much on engaging street food vendors together with designers in developing their standards and their hygiene ways of working. We are also taking up the challenge of engaging professionals in co-design. For instance, in a project on designing textiles for healing hospital environments. The challenge is here also to involve patients and their relatives, but also professionals as nurses, doctors, and architects, engineers, and designers. Particular challenge with such a project is to have an interaction that can develop a common knowledge and a common understanding across the different actor worlds where these different experts are working in. And it poses a number of challenges that we are trying to deal with. The perspective here is that we see the necessity of creating spaces for mutual engagement, to create creative environments and meeting spaces that on the one hand enable the engagement of new actors in innovative process. For instance, the street vendors in Calcutta, the relatives at the hospital, the patients at the hospital, and in that sense also creating local agency and new empowerment. But at the same time also to reframe understandings in professionalized practices, for instance among architects and engineers, in institutional settings in public and private organizations. And this leads me forward to talk about the transport and translation of user knowledge. Because the key for us is not just to organize, you could say, local design laboratories where ethnographers or ethnologists are engaging users, maybe together with experts in a dialogue in a period of time, could say in a temporary space, temporary project, but also to see how and whether this knowledge is transported or moved into organizations that on a more continuous basis can sustain new practices. And we see a number of challenges here that the engagement with companies, and that's not only organization in companies, private companies, but also public organizations, municipalities, for instance, where you would see a number of highly established practices that is very difficult to engage in a design process that questions their existing practices. For instance, in a company, of course, we would have their strategic considerations, we would have their established way of doing design and product development, we would have a marketing department who have established understandings of users and how to engage users as consumers of their products. And we would have a number of specialized expertise also within technology. So what the challenge is actually here is to see who can actually transport this knowledge, which means, and how do design objects travel into organizations, how are they received in organizations and taken up as new practices. We see possibilities here, we see also a high number of challenges. So one approach to try to understand this and work with this is what we call staging. So our approach here is to move from planning approaches to organizing collaboration in a flow of events. Move from decision making to navigation in uncharted terrain, where criteria may change over a project lifetime, to move from calculation to translation of uncertain knowledge across boundaries, and to allow involving a mixture of actors, concepts and models. All this in order to move towards more user-oriented perspectives. And well, staging can take on many forms, but one simple way to try to envision this is to see that staging is something that has to be an instructor, somebody who is staging, setting the stage, inviting people to play on the stage. And as you can see here, there's a lot of selection of which actors are actually involved on the stage, what are the activities that you are performing on the stage, what are the kind of ideas and knowledge that are included in the space and what is not included, what kind of selection of models and working practices are on the stage, and how are objects reflected and contributing to the performance at the stage. Maybe also you can see here that boundary objects can be seen as something that is opening or closing off knowledge flows to and from this kind of states compared to other surroundings. And important here is what we see as the staging of the temporary spaces. We do not see product development, we do not see design, we do not see innovation as something that is continued on a continued basis, as in product in R&D departments in companies. We do see increasingly that staging is taking place in a number of different spaces that is opening up and closing down after each other. Hopefully that we can see that knowledge and design solutions are carried over from one temporary space to another to, in the end, to form kind of established, stabilized practice. What we see as important here when we are creating such spaces, of course, the definition of the space, the creation of the space, is this question about being able to define the content and the actors who are going to be engaged, the boundaries of the space, and what kind of organizational support, who are actually committing power and influence to the space, and allowing people to speak and talk, and who are able to translate important societal conditions, for instance, and sustainability challenges into the space. These are important considerations. It's also important to consider how to provide objects, for instance, objects at hand or objects that you can design for the purpose to interact with and through in the space. Maybe also to consider political programs. You cannot establish a space of this kind in a completely free environment. There will always be programs, for instance, management programs, change programs in the municipality, renewal programs, governmental programs that will influence, that you can actually maybe draw on or be careful with not drawing on wholesales, but only partly maybe. But political programs are there all the time to be considered. Also the selection of candidates for mediators or boundary objects in the interaction between the diversity of perspectives, but also the skills to navigate the space. So the designer here will become, hopefully, a skilled navigator, a person that is able to stage this space and to be able to mobilize and translate interest and support conceptualization processes with the space. So that is the approach that we are trying to pursue here, among other approaches. And on that ground, on behalf of the DIST Center, I wish you an engaging conference and hope you will enjoy your stay in Copenhagen. Thank you.
So, I'm sure we could have several hours of discussion with Christian, but you will have to ask him during the coffee break, because we are still missing 2 welcomings. So, have you decided who will go first?
This one? Does it work? It works, yes. So this is amazing. Welcome. So on behalf of the Living Knowledge Network, I would like to welcome you to this 6th Living Knowledge Conference here in Copenhagen. The conference is still an element of the funding in the 7th framework program. You get a couple of numbers now. I'm sorry for that. Living Knowledge as network was established in 2000, and its aim is to give citizens access to scientific resources. And since then, participative formats have gained importance and recognition, not only in Europe, worldwide. And so here they have created many opportunities for dialogue and for participative research or participation-oriented research in our fields. Today we have more than 60 science shops worldwide in more than 25 countries. So these were some more numbers. And I hope there will be more in the future. And this is only, these numbers are only referred to science shops, because there's much more out there. So we have community-based research, participatory action research, we have citizen science, we have service learning. So there are much more participative formats and organizations behind these participative formats. And we have new buzzwords on the agenda, like responsible research and innovation, like social innovation. And we are talking about these issues, about these themes, about these ideas here during the conference. So please make use of the conference, exchange your ideas, discuss with the people who are here, discuss your ideas, learn what others have already experienced, but in the first line, enjoy the conference. And so thank you to Micah, to Saucer, to Jens and all the team behind for organizing this 6th Living Knowledge Conference. Have fun.
Okay, also from my point of view, it's a big success to have you all here. It's the second time the Per Hours project is helping to organize the conference. I mean, Michael and Sussur are doing all the hard work here in Copenhagen, but there's like 25 partners in the Per Hours project that helped make this come true. So, and that's also the strength of the Living Knowledge Network. It's not like a legal entity, there's not a big secretariat with directors and staff doing all the work, but it's people like you submitting proposals to the European Commission or to other funders and spending some of your time to help build this network. And that's good. But now we are getting so big that it might make sense to make a legal status for Living Knowledge. So one of the sessions will discuss this. How can we set up a secretariat to help us maintain the network in between projects? Like Norbert is putting in a lot of his spare time to keep continuity on the website and the newsletters and stuff like that, but we want to take it one step further. So the Per Hours project deals with public engagement with research and vice versa, research engagement with society, which means a lot of dialogues. And we try to set research agendas together with civil society organizations in various ways. So as Norbert said, science shops are one way to do it, under whatever name you choose. You sit down with the local CSO and you decide on a research project that you could do together. We also try to do it with scenario workshops in France. We did some trilateral research cooperations with NGOs and researchers in 3 different countries working together on the same theme. This was highly rewarding and interesting, and there are some sessions on it at this conference. At the same time, we also try to influence research agendas on a higher level with the research funders. So on the Per Hours website you find reports on the strategies for higher education institutes to improve social engagement. There's a report on the role of funders in this, and it will also be the topic of the next plenary after the coffee break. So we worked on a lot of different levels. One thing we did find out, and we discussed this yesterday during our consortium meeting, is that whatever online tools you have, it's always the face-to-face contact that builds trust and builds relationships. And we were confronted with this finding in all our efforts. So that's why it's so good, I think, that all of you are here on the 6th Living Knowledge Conference, and we have a lot of face-to-face contact. We can build relationships, we can build trust, we can develop projects together for new funding rounds. And so I hope with the fact that there's too much to choose from in this conference, that it will still give us a lot of energy to take home and a lot of new relationships and a lot of new friends. So enjoy the conference.
And then just a few words more before coffee break. So I think we should also remember to thank, and you can see those names in the beginning of the book of abstracts, because we have for each of the 8 themes that I announced that the conference is built around, there has been a small group, an organizing team between 2 and 5 persons. So there's a number of names there you can find in the beginning of the book of abstracts. So before we go for coffee, and after coffee we will have the first plenary, Citizen Science and Democracy, that will kind of start filling out the stage. Then I want you to say hello to somebody, and I can see some of you are sitting together with somebody you know. So you say hello to the one behind you and explain who you are, where you come from.